Well, the practice week starts for the 49ers, and things look a lot like you would expect them to, and look a lot like they did last week heading into the week 7 game against the Falcons. 49ers go into this week 8, preparing to face the Houston Texans. And again, Brock Purdy limited in practice. I would say that all signs are pointing once again to Mac Jones being the starting quarterback when the 49ers take on the Houston Texans on this particular day. And one of the things I asked Kyle Shanahan about on this day was just where they are with Brock Purdy. Have there been any setbacks? Is this basically what the medical staff has been telling him? And he said that it's different healing with a toe. Kind of unpredictable in that manner. And he says, but it's steadily getting better every week. So that's where the 49ers are right now with the toe injury. Again, limited in practice for Brock Purdy. And the fact that he's been limited the last 2 weeks speaks to why the 49ers didn't place him on injured reserve after he had that aggravation of the toe injury against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 49ers do want him out there. They want him, being able to kind of measure his progress. They also want him staying sharp in a certain way as far as going through the pre-practice drills and the limited practice during the week. So Brock Purdy was limited on this day. As far as a new injury, Diamador Lenore had a quad strain, saw him, actually, I don't know if it's a quad strain or not. It's a quad injury. Saw him during the pre-practice part. He did not practice, but looked like he was moving okay. Certainly the signs pointing toward him being able to play Sunday morning against the Texans. Ricky Pearsall not making much progress at all, it seems like, with that knee injury. It was the same knee, the posterior cruciate ligament that he felt in that game against Jacksonville. Remember, he described it initially as feeling instability in his knee. Hasn't been able to practice since then. Trending toward another week on the sideline for him. And then 2 guys we know who are going to be out for this game. Jake Brendel with the hamstring, Bryce Huff with the hamstring, and probably Yetur Gross-Matos as well with the hamstring. On this day, the typical Wednesday day of rest for Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. And then the other players limited, in addition to Brock Purdy, Renardo Green, Upton Stout, and Spencer Burford. 49ers opened the practice window for Burford. And if he's cleared, he would serve as the 49ers backup or tackle in this game. A couple of roster moves. The 49ers released defensive end Trevis Gibson, and then they immediately re-signed him to the practice squad. Now, because he was released, he's a vested veteran. He did not have to clear waivers. The 49ers could immediately put him on the practice squad. Doesn't have to go through that whole process of waiting a day. And what the 49ers did was they bumped up from the practice squad to the 53-man roster, Robert Beal Jr. He's been up and down throughout his NFL career, so he should get an opportunity to be back. My guess is, because of the timing of this, that maybe another team out there was looking towards signing Robert Beal to their 53-man roster. And so in order for the 49ers to keep him around, they opted to sign him to their 53 to prevent another team from signing him to their 53-man roster. The 49ers did release from the practice squad Messiah Swenson and signed to the practice squad linebacker Stone Blanton. So Swenson is a tight end. He joined the team several weeks ago, and now he is no longer with the organization. And I had an opportunity on Wednesday to talk to Matt Hennessy. He's going to be getting his first start with the 49ers after starting 17 games in, 2021 with the Atlanta Falcons. And, never really establishing himself as a starting center with the Atlanta Falcons, but came to the 49ers last year on the practice squad, made the 53-man roster this year, and now he's going to be pressed into action. I know in my 49ers overreactions, a couple questions or statements that Matt Hennessy is going to be the starting center from this point forward over Jake Brendel. And also Chase Lucas is going to be the starting nickelback in place of Upton Stout. And I label both of those as overreactions. Jake Brendel's been the starting center for a reason. And, this is no disrespect for Matt Hennessy. No disrespect to Chase Lucas. Both of those guys stepped in and played extraordinarily well, or at least very well, when giving the opportunity. But, the starters are the starters for a reason. Jake Brendel will remain as a starting center when Hennessy, after Hennessy leaves, or when he's ready to get back into the lineup, I should say. And also Upton Stout, I think, will be back in that nickel back role for the 49ers. Teams generally know who their best players are. And a player who's been a long-time starter for a team, or who opens the season as a starter, unless there are just major struggles and the player isn't what the player thought or the team thought that he'd be. Players typically get their starting jobs back because the team has deemed over a period of many weeks or months that player is the better player, and that's the player who should be starting. One thing about Hennessy that I found interesting when I asked him about just all the backup players for the 49ers who have stepped into big-time roles and played well, to the point where maybe these guys haven't been an improvement, but there hasn't been a noticeable drop-off, like a kind of drop-off that lends itself to this position now being a vulnerability. And for the 49ers, it's been really impressive as far as how the backups have stepped in and how they've performed. And we'll just go back. Well, let's start off with Mac Jones at quarterback. Played very well. I would even put Jake Tonjes and Luke Farrell, two guys taking the place of one. There's probably been a drop-off with Connor Colby starting on the offensive line instead of Ben Barch, but not so much that the 49ers are suffering because of it. Wide receiver, so many injuries. Pearsall, Jennings, and Kendrick Bourne has stepped in, played well when he's had his opportunities, which have been many, and I'm sure he'll continue to have his opportunities. Over on the defensive side, with the injuries to Nick Bosa, Yetur Gross-Matos, and now Bryce Huff, it's opened the door for other people, and will continue to open the door for other people. So the next guys to step up, Sam Okawanu, maybe Robert Beal, but the rookies have played well. Michael Williams and Alfred Collins. Fred Warner goes down with an injury. Well, guess what happens? Tatum Bethune, he's not Fred Warner, but you know what? He's pretty darn good. And he played well that first game and kind of lended some credence to what John Lynch told me a couple of weeks ago, that he felt like the linebacker room was one of the strongest in the 49ers organization. And that was obviously before Fred Warner was injured, but Bethune played well. And then you look at the defensive backfield. Jarrell Luter has played well in place of Renardo Green. I mentioned Chase Lucas stepping in for Upton Stout. And then in the defensive backfield, or the secondary position, there are four guys who are playing and all kind of almost interchangeable to a degree. I think Malik Mustafa is very clearly the 49ers' best safety, but also Marquise Siegel and Jair Brown and Jason Pinnock. But going back to Hennessy, I just wanted to lay out all those backup players who contributed. Going back to Hennessy, what I mentioned to him was just how there's been this mindset of a player goes down and the backup is ready to go. And what he said was he traces it back to the offseason program. He said that he was never with an organization. He'd been only with the Falcons previously, but he'd never seen a team that had such high attendance in the offseason program, in the organized team activities. And he said that's when the groundwork was laid, where all these guys who were backups learned everything there was to know. And that's when the base was established, so that months later, after the offseason program, after training camp, heading into the regular season, these guys know exactly the responsibilities. They know what's expected of them. And whenever their time comes, they're ready to go. And of course, he put himself in that position too, as far as being very excited, or I should say just prepared mentally, physically, for when that opportunity came, because you never know when it's going to come. And his opportunity came against the Atlanta Falcons, by the way, his former team, and he played well enough for the 49ers to come out of that with the victory. They got off to a really good start running the ball with Jake Brendel at center, and then after Brendel went down, Hennessy stepped in, and he and Mac Jones seemed to work very well together. So that's where the 49ers are right now. It's going to be Hennessy for at least a couple of starts. It's going to be Bryce Huff, who had the most snaps by a 49ers defensive lineman in the game week 7 against the Falcons. They're going to have more guys in the mix there, probably more playing time for Kevin Givens, more playing time for CJ West, more playing time for Sam Okawanu and Michael Williams and Alfred Collins and Jordan Elliott and any number of the players who are going to be called upon in this game. So that's where the 49ers are after one day of practice this week, getting ready to face the Houston Texans. If you have an opportunity, if you have an hour to kill, go back and check out the YouTube live I did on Tuesday, where I talked about Robert Salah, and maybe it's not such a given that he will be an NFL head coach next season. I'm of the opinion he's a really good coach, and if I were an owner, I would hire him in a heartbeat. But I think that because of the reliance now on the teams that are struggling, the teams that are going to be looking for head coaches, those teams are also looking for quarterbacks, young quarterbacks that can be developed, either quarterbacks already on the roster or players that will be added during the draft. And I think that there might be a reluctance for an owner or a general manager making that hire to go with a defensive-minded head coach for that reason. So give that a listen and answer a lot of questions on that live chat. And I think that's it. So this was Wednesday. 49ers return to practice. Still some up in the air questions that will be answered throughout the week as we see if Brock Purdy can make some strides now and at least maybe be considered somebody who puts on a uniform. But what Kyle Shanahan said previously is if he's cleared to play, he's cleared to play and he'll be the starter. But it doesn't look like he's at that point quite yet. So once again, thanks for watching this video. And that is it for now.